I'd like to call to order the March 27th regular meeting of the Clive City Council. Would the clerk please call roll?
Mayor Edwards,
Here.
council members Weaver. Here. Coy. Here. Lenady, has he joined? Yes. Susan is absent. Klein.
Here. Very good. If you all would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm not aware of any changes to the agenda. Approval. Motion and second to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Next up, we have citizens presentation. This is the opportunity for anyone who addressed the council on an item that is not on the agenda. Pete, if you would check and see if we have anyone online. And with the scan of the council chambers, it doesn't look like we have anyone present who would like to approach the council. And no one online?
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Just as a reminder, we follow the pillars of character counts in all of our presentations. Next up, we have a proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And so let me read that proclamation to you now. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or EMS for the cities of Clive, Norwalk, Urbandale, Waukee, West Des Moines, and Windsor Heights. And whereas when an emergency occurs, it requires the response of police, fire, paramedics, and that is critical to saving life and property. Whereas the safety of those officers is dependent on the information they get from Westcom, Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are critical in that process, whereas they provide the vital link for our officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities and providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas those at Westcom have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, treatment of patients. And whereas each one of them has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their profession. Therefore, be it resolved that the week of April 13th through 19th be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the city of Clive. So, thank you for that resolution. And that will serve as a segue into our Westcom annual update. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to share what we accomplished in 2024. As soon as he cues up the presentation.
Sir.
So this is our annual 2024 report. During 2024, we upgraded our 911 telephone system with new servers, new infrastructure, new hardware, new software. We also upgraded our computer-aided dispatch system to the latest, greatest version, all in preparation of the next evolution of where we're headed. One of our best successes was late last year. We did a complete police record management rehost, where we moved it from the old physical system to the new virtual environment. And that went without a flaw. We are in the final testing stages of what is known as the CAD-to-CAD project. You probably heard of that before. It's been ongoing for about 4 years. Basically what this is this is a system, a black box, that allows all agencies, all counties in the area to share computer-aided dispatch information. We're able to see other people's vehicles, apparatus. They can see ours. If they're right on the edge or right on the border, we can reach out and tag them for recommendation. And if their agency approves it, moves on. And you don't have to have the same systems. These can be disparaging computer systems. It will basically make them all be happy together. We've been testing it. We're in the final stages of getting ready to put it into a pilot project. And everything's looking good. We've also started efforts as a community, the 3 PSAPs, to include the Department of Public Safety. Dallas County and Warren County just signed an agreement to join the system as well. So we're expanding and growing to share critical information. How did we do last year? Oops. Hey, it backed up. 59,000 911 calls. 86% of those were all from mobile devices, whether it was a cell phone, a tablet, whatever method. It wasn't an actual landline home phone. 113,000 calls received over the 10-digit. We call them the non-emergent or the administrative calls. 265 text to 911 messages where people that couldn't speak or needed to speak or was in a situation where they couldn't be heard, they just texted us and capture that and we can text back and forth.
Didn't even know you could do that, Chief.
Yes, sir. Oh, that's not the cutting edge. That's where we're at today. AI is where we're going. We'll be able, and I'll talk about it in another slide. We created 172,000 incidents for police, fire, and EMS in our computer-aided dispatch system. Basically, what that, in simple terms, is we created an event and fire, police, and ambulance respond. So that's how many times they were sent. We had 148,000 entries or inquiries. This is where the police want us to run an individual, a license plate, a vehicle, for their safety. And the important is out of those 148,000 queries that we did, 645,000 returns. So just because I run you by name, if I run you as John Doe, I get this huge return. The officers are excellent at giving us name, middle initial, suffixes, date of births, things like that, which narrows that list. But it's still quite a few. The reason I say all this is that in the dispatch center, my people take 880 actions, physical actions per day that they either have to talk, speak, or touch. That's 37 times an hour that they're involved doing something in a given day. So how does that all translate? 92% of all 911 calls we answer in 10 seconds. Now that fact without support means nothing, but here's the support. By American national standards, the goal is to answer 90% within 15 seconds. We do that 98% of the time. 95 of all 911 calls are to be answered in 20 seconds. And we do that 99% of the time. So we maintain high standards and will continue to do so.
Gee, what stops you from 100% on that 20 seconds? Okay.
Could be technical, could be anything.
Because 10 seconds will seem like forever for somebody. 20 seconds.
Yeah.
We'll think, and above that.
And it's changed a lot. You know, when I started 30 years ago, if you called 911, it would take anywhere from 7 to 11 seconds to even ring at the 911 center. And in today's technology, that happens in 2 seconds. So, yeah, every second is important.
That's important to say though, because 2 seconds takes up your 10 seconds, right? 2 seconds is gone for that just to communicate.
That's just for all the digital waves to work. Education's important to us. We provide 706 hours of individual academy training, which all new hires. That's a 7-week process. We have 5 people in academy right now. Individually, for on-the-job training hours, 1,700 or 1,464 hours per telecommunicator, not overall, that's per person. I have a staff of 43 total, 29 of them are downstairs. 2,645 hours of continuing education to maintain their certification, their accreditations, and everything to be a telecommunicator. What's really important about all these statistics is we just received our notification. We have been reaccredited as a national public safety telecommunicator training entity. It's about a 6-month process to get apply and put on all your curriculum and all that to get approved by the ANSI boards. We did it once and it was good for 3 years. We recertified and now we're good for another 3 years. The bragging point, we are the only one in the state of Iowa. Out of 99 PSAPs in this state, we are the only one that's certified.
Chief, the ANSI board would be the American National Standards
Yes, sir.
Institute Board.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You just pulled that out of there.
That's the expert.
And across the nation, there's only 109 entities that are certified. Language translation, it's our biggest, what I consider my biggest pain right now, pain point. 28,000 minutes last year. And that cost us $54,000. 2 years ago, when I joined you, it cost me $24,000. So the cost is going up. How are we going to curb that? How are we going to change that? We're going to change that with artificial intelligence, new software that's coming out. Well, it is out. We can do voice to text translation now. It's out there available. But beginning April 1st, there are 3 companies that will have voice-to-voice direct translation capabilities. So when they call 911 and they speak in whatever language they speak, software will tell us what it is and translate to English. When we speak back in English, it translates it back to their native language. Because connecting the language line can take anywhere from a minute to 12 minutes, if we can even identify the language. So we're looking forward to that. It also will give us the capability to automate our alarm call processing. Right now, we take a little over 6,600 alarm calls per year. Our operators have to answer the phone, enter all the data, send it to the agencies, so on. We can replace that with an AI bot that will take it. It will directly put it into our computer-aided dispatch system, and we press send. So we can speed up the process, lower the workload of our people, which is what life is all about. We had 17 life-saving awards this last year. What that basically means is we gave life-saving instructions that produced a positive outcome before the police, fire, ambulance arrived on scene. We're pretty proud of that. This is just a few of the people that earned that recognition. We do outreach all over across the 6 cities and beyond, actually. So if you have an event or have a social or something, you want us to come talk, I have a great group of people that love to volunteer and talk about Westcom, share trinkets and stories and be out and about. We did have a retirement last year. Mr. Cuddy Michaels had been with us over 20 years, which we were very proud of. Our Westcom Association began the first annual retiree luncheon last year during Public Safety Telecommunications Week because we are blessed. We have 8 people that have retired from Westcom and still live in the area. So they decide, hey, let's bring them in and recognize them at least once a year, every year. So we will have our 2nd annual, the week of National Public Safety Telecommunications. Where are we going? This is my campaign, the Westcom Reimagine campaign. This is our future. Based a little bit on Winston Churchill there. You have to look backwards to go forwards. Westcom has been in existence as of August next year for 25 years. So it's time to relook at what we do, how we do it. Are we doing it the same way we've always done it? How do we improve it? How do we make it better? For those that have ever used or called 911, or in your case, seen me or any of my staff, you know who Westcom is. But if I go out in the street, Joe Blow doesn't know who we are unless they've used our service. We want to change that. We need to get out. We need to get the name out there, create an image of us. What is the mental picture? When Westcom word is said, they should, oh yeah, you're the guys that answer the 911 calls, send the police and fire. Yeah, you do tours and all this stuff. What is our new conception? What should we look at in 20 years? What's our next 25 look like? Come on, there we go. Look at ourselves in a new creative way. As I've shared with the management committee and the chiefs, we're turning over every stone. Every line item that we do, every action we take, we're reevaluating everything we do. Is this still good enough for today? Do we need to improve it? How to improve it? And how are we going to get there? So one of the statements is reimagining is the act of forming a new idea or conception, such as artificial intelligence. So I looked up some statistics to kind of give you an idea. Here we go, if it'll act. In 2021, there was a poll taken like, what do you think about the potential of AI? And 40% said, yeah, we think so. 26 said no, and 34 said, we'll wait and see, but we don't think it's going to happen. In 2023, another poll was taken, jumped to 48% believe in it, and poll in January this year is now 56%. So over 50% of the people understand. Now, just to put in perspective, AI has been here for 10 years or more. But you've been using AI and not knowing it. When you're interacting with your bank and the online Googles and all this is AI driven. It's just now getting to the point where public safety is considering it usable, that it meets the security requirements that we need. It's protected and secure and all that stuff. So we're going to head down that path. I try to save quite a bit of money. We did have one. Come on. Move. Move.
Go ahead, try now.
It's not wanting to behave.
There you go.
There we go. We did have one tragedy last year. We lost one of our longtime telecommunicators, 18 years, in a motorcycle accident. So we are dedicating this year Public Safety Telecommunicator Week in his memory. So we'll have lots of celebrations going on. If you have any questions, I am here at your disposal. Yes, sir, Mr. Weaver.
Chief, on that CAD to CAD integration,
Mhm.
is that a two-way interface?
Yes, sir.
It is, so we can see where they are, they can also see where we're at?
Yes.
So are we tracking then how many times our staff is being sent to? help
Yeah,
them?
we haven't got that far. Right now, we're still working through the technical things. Then we're going into the pilot project to make sure everything is working. The next step is what I call the operational part. This is where the chiefs over here get to look at it and decide with your input and your behalf, do we want to play or do we not?
So it's not deployed yet, then? We're just
No.
doing the technical.
Yeah, it's just in a test environment. You don't have to. You have control of your entities, your apparatus, your people. So you can decide how much you play, when you play. And it could be as simple as, I don't want Des Moines to automatically grab our units without coordination with Westcom first. Simple as that. Yes, sir.
Chief, from a long-term planning perspective, could you touch on growth goals? How long are you able to stay in your current facility? Is there other cities that would be excellent candidates to join the Westcom team talk us a little bit about a long-term picture.
Yeah, long-term picture, I mean, you guys, and ladies know fully well what the growth has been like, population growth. You also know that it's slowing down. Examples is Waukee had been running at 15.6% growth per year. They're projected to be down about 7.9 now. Norwalk was in the double digits and now they're slowing down below to single digits. So I don't think the growth is going to be as rapid. But it's not the growth I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about is the tourist and population visitors of the area. Prime example, West Des Moines has a population of 77,000. Monday through Friday, that's 140,000. That's just all the bedroom communities that are coming in to work. On the weekends, the last statistic I got from the Hotel Motel Association is rooms are being booked at 67% capacity, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. Why? Because we have these rec plexes and we have all this recreation in our area. And, you know,
I'd argue
that's
it's higher than
drawing in
that.
crowds. It's difficult for me to try to predict, okay, what's that impact on 911? I can guess because what I don't know, they can tell me how many rooms there are. They can even tell me the occupancies of the rooms, but what I can't tell is how many of them have phones. We can assume how many phones are in there. But, you know, like 2 years ago, I was living in one of the hotels for a few weeks, getting settled in. And on the weekends, here comes the baseball, softball crowd. And they pack those rooms. It may only have 2 beds, but I guarantee you there's 8 people in that room. And all of them had cell phones. So I think we're going to grow at a steady pace, but I think it's going to curtail itself a little bit.
From a facilities standpoint, I know your current is adequate. How long do you have to look at growth?
In its current design, I estimate we can survive till about 2028. However, we are looking at, as part of our Reimagine campaign, what if we remodel? You know, we were on a path of looking outside. The management committee had agreed, let's look at leasing a building and moving and all the other stuff. But you all know as well as I know, budgets aren't good these days. And it's not getting any better. So me and my key staff have been looking at, okay, we can't afford to move out. It's probably close to a $20 million price tag to move out. Because we'd have to buy all new equipment, all kinds of things. So let's look inside. Let's drastically look at what will it take to remodel, to expand our capability, because right now we run with 8 working positions. We have 4 alternative positions that can handle extra call load, but they can't dispatch. If we remodel the basement where we live to the capacity where we have 12 to 13 positions, we can probably be there for another 10 years plus and survive. Administrative, we won't. I'm already out of administrative space. But as far as the operations can stay. So that's the path we're going down because it will be less costly, absolutely less costly. And we're looking at grants, trying to find grants that can help pay for new software, can help pay for the remodeling and things like that we're doing. We also started in budget cycle last year. We turned over every line item and said, is this justified? What does the trend look like the last 3 years? Are we over budgeting? Do we need to bring it back down? That effort in a 1-month time period in December of last year, we cut $57,000 off our budget. As of a month ago, we're pushing close to 75 to 80,000 that we've been able to cut. So we're going to do everything we can to survive. knowing full well that you're our part of our partnering cities and you have restrictions being put on you. And I don't think Westcom should be a burden to that effort, but we should be a cooperative partner.
Sounds like your Westcom Doge is working.
Yes, yeah. We call it the Woj, but okay.
Thank
You. Any other questions? Same challenge I presented to you last year. Come see us. We're open 24/7. You know, come visit us as a whole council, come visit us individuals. Bring your family, send your relatives, your neighbors. We don't care. Anything we do, we love visitors to come and see what we do and how we do it. We even have ride along, what we call sit along programs. If you have somebody that wants to sit, we get a lot of teenagers, high schoolers and college kids that come and say, you know, I may want to do this someday. I wonder what it's like. So fill out paperwork. We run the background checks. If all's good, come sit with us for 2 to 4 hours and see what it's like. We put headset on you so you can listen and observe and interact with our people. So.
Winger was coming, they said they did a background check.
I'm out.
Well, you know, it's not super hard.
Okay. I'll come with him, chaperone.
It's not a federal. Thank you very much for your time and have a lovely.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Next up, Catch Des Moines. Greg.
Nice job, chief. I've heard your report before. Good job. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, management team, beloved staff. Thanks for being here. It's your annual report from your Convention Visitors Bureau, Catch Des Moines. We're going to kick it off with a video. I think Matt is controlling that from Iowa City.
You should be able to go ahead and share your screen.
That's our AI.
It's all fake news, you know.
Matt, are you able to unmute yourself? One moment. Not sure how that. Matt, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yep, thank you. Here, I'll get this up here.
Maybe went down to happy hour.
Soon.
Our name is Catch Des Moines, and we sell serious fun. But dig a little deeper and you'll find something greater. As the Greater Des Moines Convention and Visitors Bureau, we bring visitors to the region through events and leisure travel marketing, and our impact knows no bounds. Ever wonder how Des Moines lands such events as NCAA March Madness and National Speech and Debate? That's thanks to our year-round efforts connecting national meeting planners and selling them on what we all know. Des Moines is the real deal. And all those videos, lists, and headlines that paint Des Moines as the cool place to be, yeah, that's us too. Whether it's through economic impact, job creation, or enhancing the reputation of the region, visitors and events leave a lasting impression.
Most major cities in the country have a CVB. And so if we want to compete for these big events, we have to have a CVB out there telling our story and telling everybody about all the great things that our region has to offer. I can tell you from experience that people select venues and destinations based on trusting who they're going to work with and having that credibility. Catch Des Moines does an amazing job of building that trust on behalf of Greater Des Moines. And that is key to the success of our region.
Catch Des Moines is such an important partner at the Iowa Event Center in what we do and the business we do. There's so many events, from sporting events to conventions and conferences. Catch Des Moines has a hand in just about everything. People focus on NCAA basketball and some of the bigger sporting events, but there's so many smaller regional and local meetings that take place in the event center. People are staying overnight in hotels. They're going to the bars and restaurants. It's a huge economic piece to the region.
Catch Des Moines brings in large groups throughout the year. That's great. But it's really the 100 to 500 person groups every week throughout the year that sustains air service. So it's not just all locals that are leaving the airport and coming back. We need people continually coming into Des Moines. When the visitors all come to town, that helps support all these businesses that create that vibrant social scene.
Catch Des Moines helps small businesses like mine by just getting the word out. With the help of their social media, their marketing programs, Catch Des Moines makes sure that everyone knows that we exist. And telling my story about why this bakery matters, not just to me, but also to the community. Catch Des Moines is our biggest cheerleader to make sure we don't remain a best kept secret.
And while we like to shout about our local businesses, our sports scene has been making plenty of noise too.
In 2022, the youth sports industry was estimated at almost $40 billion. They expect that number to grow to almost $60 billion by 2030. Our region is growing tremendously, and it's really turned into a sports mecca. It's because of Catch and their connections that we're able to attract these tournaments and bring tourism into West Des Moines and the surrounding communities.
And it's not just sports where we provide an assist. Catch sits at the head of the table when it comes to bringing in conventions and meetings too.
So about 10 years ago, the superintendent of Waukee Schools and I had a vision for bringing the largest academic competition in the world to Des Moines. And the first thing I did was call Catch Des Moines because I knew that our Visitors Bureau knew exactly what it would take to bring a high school event like ours to the city. Many visitor bureaus play the role of being the bridge between the city and the organization and the event. What Catch understands is that you have to be more than the bridge. You have to be the vehicle and the fuel to help that organization maximize its mission while they're in the city. There's a ton of economic benefit that happens when thousands of people over a long period of time come to the city. They also have an opportunity to see all kinds of parts of the city. Visiting the amusement park at Adventureland, going to watch Hamilton at the Civic Center, eating at our incredible restaurants. Catch Des Moines understands that when you bring 7,000 future leaders to Des Moines, Iowa, that will have a reciprocal benefit in the future because those individuals will fall in love with this city. They will come back and be a part of this city and this culture. And someday they might call themselves Iowans.
If you build a place where people want to visit, you'll build a place where people want to live. If you build a place where people want to live, you'll build a place where people want to work. If you build a place where people want to work, you'll build a place where business needs to be. If you build a place where business has to be, you'll build a place where people have to visit. Our impact is greater.
Because in Des Moines,
Only the S's
Are silent.
With me, I think you all know Trina Flack, our Vice President of Sales. And I'm really proud to say Brock Conrad could be sitting in this new open seat because he is a brand new resident of Clive. Bought out that cheap country club area or whatever, you know. Brock's our Vice President of Marketing, so he's pretty excited about being here tonight. Now we're getting back to, I just have a couple more slides.
To be able to use the scroll. Right?
Or I can advance it for you too.
Yeah, go ahead. Easy for you to say, huh? Did we skip? Yeah, I think we, first slide is our mission statement, which you're familiar with. To increase more visitors to the metro area, obviously. Next slide is just a kind of a reminder. I know there's been a lot of conversations about hotel tax and cutting us back and things like that, but just to show the blue line here is what cities retain, and the red line is what we get from our 14 cities that we represent. So you take in, you get 3 7s, we get 2 7s. Next. Budget breakdown. Proud of this slide, especially because it shows that we are spending our money where we're supposed to be spending it. 85% of it's going towards sales and marketing, sports efforts, things like that. We only spent 15% on administration. Just a recap of last year's 393 conventions or meetings or sporting events occurred. We booked, 393 utilized our services. They occurred, 261 of those occurred because of our direct impact, taking them all the way from the sales beginning all the way through the fruition. And then 300 future meetings and conventions were booked last year. On the marketing side, Brock and his team do a great job, really concentrating on the leisure side. And I think as you just heard from the chief, that works pretty well. In fact, this year, the last few years, since COVID, we're still seeing higher occupancies on the weekends than we are weekday, because business travel still hasn't quite gotten back to where it is. I think it's still a lot of Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, things like that. So we have increased that dramatically. We've expanded where we're going. We're going in and out Chicago a little bit, Kansas City, Minneapolis, some bigger markets, and we're seeing some good results from those cities as well. And last but not least is another one of those charts that you're like, oh, that's really interesting. You can see the weekend transient is the red line, and the blue line is the red line is current 23-24 fiscal, and the blue line is previous year fiscal. So you can see the upturn in that weekend business as well. We also left you a packet with some other data, and it'll show you, we always review all the big stuff that's coming in, but we kind of give you an overview of all of the major things that are coming in this year for your review. And there's some other data and things in there to check out as well. So always appreciate representing Clive and hope to continue to do so. Any questions, comments?
Greg, I know you guys are bringing in some huge events, you know, the NCAA and 28, these are the marquee, the jewel events right there. But like they said, you guys have done such a great job in bringing so many smaller events that add up into a really consistent picture, right? Of bringing in, heads and beds right there. I'd also like to comment that UFC will be visiting Des Moines on May 3rd.
Yeah.
So excited about the wide variety of events, national speech and debate, the UFC to basketball, to the Quilters Association, the American Folk Dancers. I mean, you guys name it. And just from personal note, I could go through a million events that you guys have done, and Greg, you've got your fingerprints on, but really a wide legacy as you transition into your next stage of your journey, until you get your fingerprints all over the Metro Iowa and some of the things that you brought in. You really built this area and the CVB and converted into Catch Des Moines, and really made Des Moines a place of destination. Years ago, we weren't getting a whole lot, and they called it Dead Moines. And I remember those days. And now, the S are silent, but the cities are not. And I give you a great amount of credit to that. So I just want to thank you for everything you've done, and of course your team as well. It is a team effort, but every team needs a rudder and a captain. You've done a yeoman's job and a great job with that. So thanks again, Parker.
Thank you.
Must have a pretty good board too, right?
It's a great board, yeah. We love our Clive representative.
We know better.
I had to write.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for coming in, Greg. Always appreciate the annual review and your team as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Clive.
Yeah.
You don't have a bigger champion than Clyde.
Right on. I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Next, we have consent, or requires resolution.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion second on consent. Further discussion. Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And consent is passed by a vote of 3-0. Next, we'll move into our action items. The first is a public hearing. Did we publish the appropriate public notice?
Yes, Ron, both of them.
Thank you very much. Liz?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So we've been really busy working on borrowing for our capital improvement projects for this year. As a requirement by state code, we have to do two of our separate hearings. One, of course, is first associated with the essential purpose, corporate purpose projects. Listed are Alice's Road, of course, Berkshire and Douglas Parkways, and then other traffic signal improvements. And then the second hearing is for general corporate purpose, and that is for the City Hall renovation phase 2. So the city's debt service property tax will be financing all of these projects. Following the public hearing, staff would recommend approval of the resolution that will move the sale forward to the morning of April 24th.
Questions for Liz?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close public hearing. Before we do so, is there anyone to address the council on this matter? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 3-0. Our public hearing is closed.
Move to proposal to enter into session purpose loan agreement for. You need to do that?
We just post the other one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Next public hearing, where we did publish the appropriate public notice. Anything to add on that, Liz?
Nothing more to add on that. That's the second hearing.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion second to close our second public hearing. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that? And our second public hearing is closed by a vote of 3-0.
Move the resolution, take additional action on proposals to enter into loan agreements and combining loan agreements.
Second.
Motion second on the resolution. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 3-0. Now we need to set a public hearing for the 10th at 6 p.m.
Move the resolution setting public hearing for 4/10/2025, 6 p.m. for FY 2025-26 budget.
Second.
Motion second on the resolution to set our public hearing. Further discussion? Seeing none, would the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Next, we've got a collective bargaining agreement. Matt, are you back with us?
I am. Thank you, Your Honor. Before you tonight is the second of the collective bargaining agreements that have been negotiated over the last number of months. This is associated with our fire union, Local 5055. This is a 2-year agreement with 4.5% and 4% increases to the pay scale, matching the city of Urbandale's wages for firefighter and paramedics. There's also changes in the language to reduce some of the city's costs associated with mandatory overtimes in this contract, as well as adding our parental leave program, matching what the non-union staff has in our current personnel policy manual. There is some supplemental pay that's added in terms of fire engineer certification. This is part of the growth plan for our full-time firefighter paramedics in terms of providing those opportunities, and then some other language changes. But the last thing I'll note too is to kind of offset some of the wage increases, the union has also agreed to increase their contribution to the city's health insurance plan for both single and family contribution rates. That's all I have, Your Honor. Unless there's any questions, we would recommend approval.
Any questions for Matt?
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the collective bargaining agreement. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 3-0. Next up, we have the potential consideration of ordinance number 1158, dealing with a set term for the city manager's maximum appointment. The first action would be a motion to bring it off the table in order for us to consider this?
So move.
Bringing it off.
Bring it up.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to bring it off the table. It is now eligible for discussion. Oh,
Motion to bring it up.
oh, sorry. All those in favor, please vote. Or if you're not in favor, bring it off the table. And will clerk please post that vote? The vote to bring it off the table passes by a vote of 3-0. Now we can discuss it.
Just for the record, I'll briefly reiterate what has taken place. The Personnel Committee had made a recommendation to change the city manager's contract length from 2 years to 3 years with an amendment to our city code. That was considered at our previous meeting. At that time, there was discussion to make it longer, make it shorter, to take it out of the code and so on. And the decision at that time was just to table the item to allow our legal counsel to see what our options were. They came back with a recommendation that's before you in your memo tonight. So with that, I'll let you guys make your choice on what you want to do with it, unless you have any other questions for me.
Well, legal counsel, could you indicate what your recommendation was?
Yes, Mayor. We do have some options here that we did conclude that there's a requirement that there be some term component to the contract, whether that's directly in the ordinance or in the contract itself. So we do not necessarily need to maintain it in the ordinance, but because that had been the past practice, we recommended that that just continue as the current practice without a necessarily a need for a change. But certainly there is flexibility in how we want to do that, whether it is through the ordinance or a contract.
Okay, very good. So further discussion, or what is the will of the council?
I guess I'll just mention something, good research, thorough research, appreciate the work done. I had kind of asked for consideration of if you cannot, if it's okay to not have it in the code. And I think that came up as well. Not seeing anyone else around the region having a code in for this type of item for term limits on a city manager. My proposal would be to make a motion on the first consideration of the proposed ordinance 1118. And I'll do so with the intentions of having it fail and then bringing a new one up next time for a resolution for the legal counsel to write the resolution to say we're going to remove it from vote altogether.
That could fail for lack.
Correct. So I will move that ordinance number 1158, amending the 2024 code, having been considered by the council, be voted on for passage prior to its final adoption.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion fails for the lack of a second. All right. Moving right along, we'll move to reports. Pete.
Thank you, Your Honor. So it's been a busy week at the legislature. We are about a week and a half or less than that left up to the second final date when bills need to have reached another threshold to be able to move forward. Yesterday, I did remotely attend two subcommittee hearings and Senate Ways and Means just to get a flavor for what was happening up there on all these debates. The one that got the most attention of absolute packed room was on the property tax, proposed property tax legislation. Interestingly, to a group that was represented there, it was appreciative of the intent to simplify the code, appreciative of the time that the legislators were giving all of these diverse groups to weigh in and do the math and figure out what's going on, and an openness to continuing the conversation. So it's not reached a point, at least in that public forum, where people are really like this. In fact, I'd say it's quite the opposite. It's everybody sort of acknowledging that something needs to change on all of that. So from the city perspective, the League of Cities and just internally, Corey Eastman on our team has done a wonderful job with Liz as well and with Matt, sort of doing the analysis and building a model to understand how does Clive operate in the 718 environment, House File 718 from last year versus what's being proposed. We continue to look at that and run the analysis. And as we have data to share, we will have, Matt will be leading that effort. He's in can share insight to conversations I'm sure that are happening among other city managers as they understand what this means for different types of cities as well. The other bill that or subcommittee meeting I listed in on has to do with stormwater. This would be Senate File 600. This would be a legislation that would require stormwater fees schedules to have sort of an incentive structure that would enable a property with certain types of stormwater infrastructure potentially to get a discounted rate or maybe pay nothing for their use of the stormwater system. This is a bill that still needs quite a bit of clarification and is just technically right now has some inconsistencies in it when you're looking out at it with the rest of code. But in general, the sentiment among the committee was that unlike similar to the way that we organize our sanitary sewer and our water utilities, where it's sort of you pay for what you use, there ought to be some sort of way to modulate the rate for stormwater in these senators' minds based on how much you use or don't use the system because of the types of structures you might have on your property. Lots of complexity still to work out on that because it's not as easy when we're talking about the benefit of how you use the stormwater system. It's not as easy as measuring gallons that go for your water meter. So we'll continue to follow that closely. I also just got a text that another stormwater bill will be coming next week for subcommittee consideration at the Senate. And we'll see as we move into the following week what makes it past the fall.
Who's writing the next one?
Both of the stormwater bills were introduced initially by Senator Webster. Both of them are moving through ways. The one that was SF 600 that went to Ways and Means was sort of being stewarded along by Senator Buslow.
What's driving that? You know, why would they want to mandate that?
I heard some really interesting reasons, but some of it is for Senator Buslow. He thinks that all of this is just one of the things that adds up to the cost of owning and staying in a home in Iowa. And that they're concerned that without some sort of ability to modulate the rate, sort of hold them back in, this is one of those costs that would start to run away. If you look at the Clive's utility bill that you all get every month, stormwater was compared to neighboring communities, it's a higher number, but it's by far the small number sort of compared to sewer and water.
Cost of ownership of a home is.
Right. It's not a very big cost of ownership. And as we've been able to demonstrate through our post-construction stormwater ordinance and other studies, the infrastructure that you all are putting in place works. It does create conditions in our developed neighborhoods that perform very much like the conditions before the development even happened. Water is slowed down, it's infiltrated, and it's put back into the watershed, into the creek cleaner.
But Pete, we have a rate that changes, don't we? And you get some kind of discount, right? Over the last years, we've been working on that. Or is that not really, right? Or
our rate is it depends for residential property based on how much impervious area you have. So if you decrease, so if you decrease the amount of impervious area, you would pay potentially a lower rate, but it's tiers. It's not specific like the commercial rate is, which is a sort of total calculation of square feet and then multiplied by the ERU.
I think for a lot of years, we get double-digit increases that to kind of catch up where we're now. This is kind of moderated. I don't remember, was it 3%, 4%, whatever?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area for stormwater rates.
That's correct.
Much more palpable to people as opposed to those, 10% every year.
Yeah. But it was 10%, wasn't that much in real dollars.
It wasn't that much real dollars. And we all understand Clive's unique nature and topography, and it is what it is, right? We're at the bottom of the funnel. We had to do that because of the situation it is. So,
yeah.
No regrets.
So we'll continue to be engaged with these senators and want to understand their concerns and see if we can, if these pieces of legislation are going to continue to move forward, if there's a way that we can continue to make them better for many different stakeholders. Those are just a couple. There's a bunch out there right now, and we'll have some information from the League of Cities with their bill tracker that you all can take a look at, and include links in Matt's email on Friday.
And Peter, Doug, I believe the Senate passed a JDU bill. Do we know any details about that?
We do know
whether it's good or bad.
This is a bill, as we read it right now, that is more aggressive, more, sort of not Iowa sized than what we had sort of thought was coming in when the AARP advocates came and had presented to the council, right? It's still one that is being amended, as it moves forward, but this, I would wager at this point is one that looks like it's got some real legs.
Well, that's, yeah.
So this is one that, as and Doug can speak maybe better to this than I can, although I don't want to put you on the spot on that, Doug, but this really does start to step into some of the local control that you all have around zoning, right? On this stuff.
What's in front of the legislature at this point is more or less a national model ordinance. So what might be very appropriate in California, probably not appropriate for Clive, Iowa, or Iowa in general, frankly. So I think the intent of having more housing choice makes good sense. They should leave the how do you do that to you folks.
But they're not.
That is absolutely not what this does. It says, generally, you have no control over it. You must allow it, period.
Including rentals and parking and all that stuff is prescribed?
Absolutely.
Who's running that bill? It has to be an outside state person or an organization, national organization.
I'll have to do some more research to see who's registered in favor, but we know that AARP was one of the groups. I've heard that Americans for Prosperity was another group that was sort of interested in this. So you've got you've got a mix of the ideological spectrum.
That's unanimously to the Senate, so I don't know what the situation is in the House.
Did it have a companion bill?
I do believe it's got a companion bill.
But that could be coming down.
Yeah. In that case, obviously, there'd be a lot of ordinance changing that would need to be done, potentially, Clive. Same way with stormwater bill, if that SF, Senate File 600 would pass. That process we're in the middle of right now of updating the manual and the ordinances would need to have a chapter 2 where we would have to make some additional changes.
I understand too, and that ADU was that square footage is kind of wonky too as well, right? Like
1,000 square feet. Right. You cannot regulate less than that.
Right, we got lots of houses less than 1,000, like houses. Lots of them.
Thank you, Pete. Anything else?
I wish I could give you something more positive, right?
Yeah,
The
so do
last
we.
thing I've got is
Bad
actually,
news, Pete.
I know. The last one I've got, we have kind of fired up the construction on the interchange again. You probably have noticed as you're driving through. There were some closures in place earlier this week that were needed to move Jersey barriers around as they shift how they're working. I was at a DOT update with Jim this week where they talked about a couple other things coming in the month of April. They're going to go into some of those real beat up areas and do some patching, so it's safer to get through while they're doing the construction. After that, there's going to be some closures in place, some longer closures that involve on and off ramps and lanes up on the interstate. So we need people to be very aware as they're moving through the corridor, watching those signs, getting updates. Just be safe as you're driving through that space. The big one that's right in front of us, I guess, next would be on Monday, March 31st, starting at 10 o'clock and then extending until 4 a.m. on April 1st. There will be a complete closure of the interstate, which will require a detour that goes from 235 down Valley West, down 100th Street, and then up into Urbandale. So this is going to be one that in that overnight period is going to cause a lot of traffic moving through the city, moving through on those spaces.
semis and everything.
Yeah,
Ooh,
One day though.
What day was that, Pete?
that's an overnight. So it's going to start at 10 o'clock. It's scheduled right now for 10 o'clock, Monday, March 31st into April 1st in the morning, wrapped up by 4 a.m. But more coming. So I don't want to get too, besides that point, I don't want to get too hung up on the specifics because weather can slow them down and change things up. But do know there are going to be ramps, periods of time when the ramps are closed. There are going to be periods of time when lanes are closed, and we'll do our best to keep everybody updated. And the weather's real nice. There you go. There's the positive to finish.
Well, thank you, Pete.
Very.
Finish on a high note.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Pete. Ted, what would you like to tell us?
Only thing I have tonight is Clark Community Foundation board met today. Set a similar goal as last year for fundraising of about 55,000 to be able to distribute the grants at the end of the year. One of the fundraising initiatives is through the Greenbelt Music Festival, where we get $5 per ticket. And what we do on our end to help kind of support that is provide volunteers for the festival. So it's a 5-hour shift that can be signed up for, and if you do that, then you get a ticket for the entire weekend for the festival, which is worth $100. So if anybody wants to sign up and be a volunteer at the Greenbelt Music Festival, I think it's May 16th and 17th. And it's a 5-hour shift. You get a free ticket for the whole weekend. And so let me know and get people signed up. So we're going to try to get some volunteers to help them out. The intent is we want to make sure we show some value to continue that going forward in future years where we continue to get that donation from the festival.
Their website.
It is. I mean, you can look up Greenbelt Music Festival and they'll have volunteer signups as well. We want to make sure that the CCO gets credit for the but yeah. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Ted. Eric?
No report, Your Honor, only to say that opening weekend for the Iowa Cubs is this weekend, Friday night at 7 o'clock. So it's gonna be high 70s and hopefully folks can join us at a Principal Park.
Who do they play?
They play the Omaha Storm Chasers.
Right.
Bitter luck. Michael?
I don't have a report other than for Chief, 5-0 Chief. I'm hearing the appreciation of having your officers. I haven't seen them, but others have. Your officers on the Greenbelt, more of a presence. So that's been welcomed by several residents. So thank you. You heard us, right? It's happening. It's coming back. Maybe you're not hearing about the positive feedback. I've certainly heard.
I've heard too.
Great. Mike?
They're on four-wheelers, I believe is what I heard, or not four-wheelers, side-by-side, TV.
The Gator.
Yeah.
And they're on bikes.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thanks, Chief, for that effort.
Very good. Anything legal, Neil?
No report, Your Honor.
Matt?
Yeah, a few items, Your Honor, that I wanted to follow up a little bit on Pete's comments related to the property tax legislation. As you can imagine, this has been pretty much the conversation almost the entire time I've been here at IMMI over in Iowa City with those folks. We're going to be having some more conversation tomorrow morning. Some of the league cities legislative folks are coming over, and then as one of the co-chairs of the Iowa CMA, the Iowa City County Managers Association Legislative Affairs Committee, myself and the other co-chair will be having a dialogue. The league will be sending out, to Pete's point on the financial model that's been worked on. We created one here in Clive. The league worked with PFM on a broader one that can work for all cities, and we were part of kind of the QA/QC process of that model. It's my understanding, just talking to Alan Kemp, the executive director, right before the meeting, that's going to probably be getting sent out tomorrow to some targeted cities, kind of 20 targeted cities that they want to have work through the model and maybe have some assistance. So like myself or Corey or maybe from some other cities, maybe helping them to make sure we can have some targeted cities and then sending it about broader to all of the cities if they want to. It's not an easy model to necessarily input because you have to put a lot of property valuation projections in there. But they are also working with PFM to try to come up with a 2-page kind of static PDF model run for every city in Iowa that they can send to every city, that they're working on there with the Philadelphia office, the main PFM office on that. So a lot of good movement there. I won't read, obviously Pete shared what was discussed at the subcommittee. We talked a lot about that. There was a number of people here that watched that yesterday. So we have been kind of talking about some strategy here from the city standpoint and working with other stakeholders like economic development groups and business groups, particularly related to the impacts on TIF related to this piece of legislation. So a lot happening here in those conversations, and our understanding is, at least on the House side, that they were going to give it another 2 weeks before it's brought up to the full committee, and potentially another few weeks after that before there's votes happening. So this really plays it out till the end of April, in line with what the legislators have shared in terms of taking a slow process here to make sure they're getting a lot of input. So that is good to see, but a lot more work to be done in terms of providing feedback on this legislation. Also wanted to mention a couple things that'll be going out in the mail. We'll have the April city newsletter going out next week, and that will include a call for applications for potential council candidates for your consideration for appointment at your May 1st meeting. So that will be going out in the mail next week. Another item that will be going out in the mail, I just received, I'll see if I can share this. I just received this from the Polk County auditor, or excuse me, Polk County assessor here we go. So this is what is going to be going out. March 31st will be the new assessments for the next assessment year, property valuation assessments going out. And this is kind of a summary, and I'll include this in my weekly update to you all as an attachment, showing where Polk County sees valuations going in the different property classes across the county. Again, this is a county-wide percentage that you're seeing there on the screen in terms of residential, commercial, multi-residential, industrial, and agriculture. So again, know that this is also going out in the midst of all these property tax discussions as well. So just something for the council to be aware of. And again, I'll share this with you all tomorrow. Finally, too, then wanted to mention in my weekly update last week, and I'll reshare it tomorrow, we've come up with some conceptual designs of some new signage for the City Hall and Library as a part of the remodel project. Again, would welcome any feedback council may have on that. We're looking forward to getting that moving forward and really updating some of that signage. It's the original signage that's been on the building since the beginning. So we're intending to kind of do that between the phases later this summer to have that signage refreshed at City Hall. It's relatively minor changes, a lot of good iteration with the community development staff to make sure we're within our signage regulations, and these are compliant with those. So I wanted to make sure the council knew that. But any feedback you have, let me know. Other than that, that's all I have, Your Honor, unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Matt?
Yeah, Matt, on the legislation piece, while you're there, Iowa League of Cities has been very visible down there. They're doing a great job. I unfortunately have spoken at 7 committees here in the last 3 weeks. But they're very busy down there, that, you know, they're doing well. Are they weighing in on everything? I think they should, maybe not, but man, it's a huge change from the past. And so I know they have a lobbyist and she's doing fantastic, and others. What I'm not seeing down there, and again, I've been down there too much, is that where's the Des Moines partnership and that agreement that they would be down there more? Perhaps I don't know their lobbyists, and so I'm not seeing them, but I've looked. I'm not seeing them at some of these crucial engagements. On property taxes, were they there? Have they voted? Have they disclosed against, you know, these changes? And a lot of these other bills, stormwater, other things that are caps and all that will affect that. And I thought we got a promise that they'd be very active down there on our behalf.
On the property.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete. I don't know if I didn't end up seeing the subcommittee meeting to see if Ryan Moon or their either their lobbyists, their contracted lobbyists were in those sessions or made any comments.
Ryan Moon was there for the partnership during the subcommittee on property tax.
Did they declare?
No, they're right now undecided or monitoring, but that's where 90% of the participants were. I didn't see a single group yet say they're against. There's a handful, Iowa Tax Relief, AIB, a couple I'm also missing that had registered for legislation as it's written right now. The primary points that the partnership team made, if I remember correctly, were first, the TIF tool. The legislation right now would very significantly diminish the effectiveness of the TIF tool for economic development activities. Partnership really framed all of their comments in this vein of protecting growth. So the other thing they talked about was appreciating that new growth would be carved out when doing that calculation on how much revenue there would be for a city from one year to the next. Beyond that, I haven't been down there, or I've been down there 2 or 3 times, but have mostly been monitoring, so I can't speak more than that about how the partnership has or hasn't performed.
What I can say is I've had a conversation with their economic development senior VP, Stacy, to really talk through the TIF piece of this. And so they're very well aware that the impacts that this will have to that as a tool and have concerns. I think you're seeing everybody, including the Iowa League of Cities and all the cities, staying undecided at this point until we provide this feedback that this model will kick out and see. I've already heard a rumor that there's already an amendment that's going to get introduced next week by Dawson, so Senator Dawson. So there's things moving in terms of potential adjustments to the bill. So I think folks are kind of waiting and seeing in terms of being able to provide that evidence of here are the impacts, and then knowing that amendments are coming before people are jumping in against this bill at this point in time. Just let the dialogue, as the legislators have asked, to know that this isn't a final bill in its original form, that there's a lot of work yet to be done.
And that's a fine tactic. I do agree with that, but you know, I've sat in on a couple while I was waiting on some other things, especially the caps of everything, you know, caps on garbage, caps on water, caps on, I haven't seen any registered comments on all those caps. And again, look, I'm frustrated, and I've been watching this one close once we got the assurance that they would get involved. I haven't seen it, so perhaps we can ask for that report, that we asked for that email, you know, from them, giving us the assurance that they would be down there and lobbying and active, and perhaps which bills that they've been active on, and get kind of a report like I do with our lobbyists on a weekly basis, right? The bill run report.
All right. Now I can definitely follow up with Tiffany on that.
Anything else for Matt? Quick Central Iowa Waterworks update. Pete has been appointed to the Water Usage Best Practices Committee, so we appreciate having his expertise on that committee. As we've said before, Central Iowa Waterworks is looking at as much as $1 billion in expansion facilities to meet the use demands in the metro. And so Pete's input will be very critical in helping figure out how much capacity we really do need.
They're making $1 billion on water and $1 billion in sewer. Right? It's the same dollars on the WRA. $1 billion. That's $2 billion. Picking up your water, 1%. That's
a lot of money. So yeah, capacity is a real issue, and they've got to look at places where they can build space where they can get the water. So there are a lot of challenges that they're busy with that. Also, just so you know, we're Des Moines Waterworks has to pull nitrates out, you know, it's nitrate season. So they spend millions of dollars doing that. And, just coming straight down from the farm field. Just so you're aware of that. All right. Anything else for the good of the order tonight? Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 7:14.